Yeah, and just looking at the overall landscape, there really isn't a whole lot of guys that are primed for that. There's guys that we would want to be in that position, like a Matt Morgan or like a Robert Roode or Austin Aries. But as far as people storyline wise that would make sense to be in that title picture, there isn't. It seems like it's just Sting and Hogan. That's who they are putting in this main event line, and it doesn't make sense. It's not a strong story. It's not a strong enough story to keep Bully Ray as champion.
Well, and this is the problem. I know Harrison and the rest of us have touched on it a couple of times during our normal podcast. That's one of the problems with big storylines like this is you get everybody caught up in it, and anybody who's not caught up in it, it's really hard to bring them into the storyline at a moment's notice. You really have to, if you're going to have like a huge stable war like this, you really have to have it planned out and know who's coming in when, and basically there just has to be a plan.
Yeah,
And
and that's an issue that we see is it doesn't seem like there's a plan there.
right,
You have 3.5 months to build up pay-per-views, and this is the one title that you would think that they would dedicate enough time to really build up quality contenders, and they're failing.
big time.
So, all right, I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels that way. But yeah, I just it's just a matter of I like Bully as champion. I think it was a mistake to put him with Aces and Eights as long as there isn't a strong counterpoint. You know. But okay, Impact. As far as this was the go home show, uh, the reaction is pretty rough. It doesn't seem like anyone is really satisfied with it. Nick, who writes for FTW, Live Chat Hooligan King, he in his live blog for Impact, he said there were just too many shenanigans and not enough quality matches. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. One of my big criticisms of TNA has always been that it tends to follow the WCW model of things. They like to do shenanigans. They like to have a lot of matches end with interference. They like to do that stuff. They like to have the face get screwed over before the pay-per-view where the face ultimately wins. When it works, it's really cool and it works really well and leaves the fans satisfied. But you can't. You have to use match interference sparingly. If you use it too much, then you spoil the show. You don't get quality matches, and the people who are at that show feel like they've wasted their money, or if they're watching on TV, they feel like they've wasted their time. And that's what TNA tends to do. They tend to go overboard on the shenanigans.
Yeah, and just looking at the main event with Angle versus AJ I'm sorry, AJ versus Anderson rather. To have Angle come in, it was kind of like a different script in that they had a guy who is sort of a face going, and attacking AJ, who's sort of a face. I'm not sure who the fans should be backing at this point.
Yeah, that was really weird, and that was one of the things that made me answer in the last question, because with AJ kind of seeming to refuse to join Aces and Eights, it kind of gave hope that AJ Styles might join Team TNA and might move into that leader spot to lead TNA against it. But now you've got Kurt Angle and AJ Styles apparently fighting with each other, and it just goes back and weakens Team TNA some more.
Yeah, and the live chat is kind of they're countering this argument, and they're saying the last show before pay-per-view, yes, it tends to be storyline heavy, but that's okay because it's the last show. It's the show that's supposed to build up a lot of these angles for the pay-per-view, makes you interested in getting the pay-per-view. And I think my only complaint about that is what you said. It's just classic booking. There's a structure that they follow every pay-per-view, it seems, and that's what they follow. They don't necessarily do anything different from pay-per-view to pay-per-view on these go-home shows.
Right, and there's a difference between storyline driven interference that happens for a reason as opposed to just well, we're going to have somebody interfere again. AJ Kurt Angle interfering and attacking AJ Styles. What's the point there?
Well, I mean, that does sort of build up the AJ versus Angle match at the pay-per-view. I mean, so it is related, but it doesn't necessarily make sense because, I mean, I don't know. I'm torn on that one because it does make sense considering the week before it was AJ who attacked Angle with the hammer.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, it's we'll see how they do.
yeah.
But Slammiversary is one of the big two pay-per-views that TNA puts on,
Well,
and
it's one of the big four pay-per-views that TNA puts on.
well, I mean, like Slammiversary and Bound for Glory are like the top two pay-per-views, and
Definitely.
were even before they went to this new schedule. Um, the so the problem with that is when you're going into one of these pay-per-views, you have to do something special on the go-home show, and TNA just didn't do that here. They follow their same cookie cutter. Well, we're going to do this, and it didn't really work, as the fan reaction is pointing out.
Sure. All right. Well, we're going to talk more about this week's Impact on FTW 167, which is this coming Tuesday, 8 p.m. here on TWRnetwork.com. And so we're not going to devote any more time to Impact, but there was another piece of news that is somewhat relevant because it could mean something for Slammiversary, and that was a tweet by Dixie Carter. She tweeted that basically TNA just signed a big name free agent. She suggested that they would be on Impact or on Spike TV at least in the next coming weeks, but many are wondering, will this new name, this new free agent signing be on Slammiversary, have anything to do with Slammiversary? Deuce, one of the FTW writers, he also was questioning that. So I guess we can start throwing out some predictions on who it is, but regardless of who it is, do you think that they'll be at Slammiversary, Rob?
Uh, they might be, if it is who I think it is. I'm going to hope that it comes down to one of two people, either Christian, who
Or
TNA
Batista?
has... No,
No.
not Batista.
Okay.
Either Christian, who TNA has shown that they can use effectively in the past and could help TNA out at this point in time, or maybe John Morrison. Both of those guys, on their way to the world title picture, could more immediately help the X Division out.
Yeah, I definitely see John Morrison being a major player in the X Division. I wouldn't throw him into the world title
Nope,
anytime soon, but
not
definitely
Morrison. No,
Christian. Yeah, definitely
Christian is,
Christian.
Christian is definitely world title material.
Yeah, I'm totally for that idea. The only issue is we don't know what the contract situation is with WWE. And so Christian, we assume, is still under contract. That's what everyone is thinking.
Yeah,
There's no reports to say otherwise. John Morrison obviously is a free agent, but he was just advertised on WWE.com a week or two ago for his new workout tape or something. So I don't know. I have reservations about those two. Another name that was thrown out was possibly them just re-signing RVD, which would be a major letdown. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, and that RVD will be in TNA within the next couple of months. But man, if if this is RVD just returning to the company, what a major letdown.
yeah,
Some other names that have been thrown out just because they are free agents. We got Shelton Benjamin, who's last been seen in ROH. From what I've read, he's no longer in a contract with them. I don't follow ROH, so I don't know specifically. But then there's also MVP, who is done with his deal in Japan. Then there's also Shannon Moore. Shannon Moore is another name that could fit here just because just how she worded it. She used the key phrases of ink and rock And to me, that says Shannon Moore if you were to read into, you know, what she wrote. But probably what she wrote was just, literally the ink was drying and this superstar is going to make an impact kind of thing. So who knows? But that's another name. There has been talk about Shannon Moore returning to wrestling. It makes sense for him to come back to TNA. So, but as far as their involvement in Slammiversary, do you see a need for that?
No, not right now. I would keep whoever, unless it's a huge signing that nobody is really thinking about.
Like
Uh,
Batista?
Fuck Batista. Uh, unless it's like a huge, big time signing, I would keep them off the pay per view and save it for Impact or whatnot.
Yeah, and I would do the same thing. Just because a majority of your fans are going to be tuning into Impact. Not all of the fans, I don't think watch the pay per views. Even though they've gone to 4 pay per views, the buy rates don't suggest that that's where everyone's going just yet. So, but yeah, I think it'd be a better. I don't know, just because of how they're doing their stories. He, Having another huge surprise at a pay per view doesn't necessarily make sense. I don't think in this case, at least for a signing like this. So, all right, let's jump into Slammiversary. It's this Sunday, and right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 matches booked, plus the announcement for the Hall of Fame induction. There is a probability that there will be 2 other matches added, including the Knockouts Championship match. It's possible that might be added last minute as a filler. But let's just run down the card real quick. AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle. Taryn Terrell versus Gail Kim in a last knockout standing match. Jay Bradley versus Sam Shaw. The winner is going to be entered into the Bound for Glory series, which starts, I believe, next week. Samoa Joe, Magnus, and Hardy teaming up to take on Doc, Wes Briscoe, and Garrett Bischoff. The TV Championship will finally be on the line as Devon defends against Joseph Park. The Tag Team Championships are on the line in a 4-team elimination match. We've got Chavo and Hernandez versus Aries and Rude versus Bad Influence versus Storm and Gunner. The X Division Ultimate X match, Kenny King defends against Chris Sabin and Suicide. And in the World Heavyweight Championship match, the main event, Bully Ray versus Sting. And if Sting loses, he will never be able to fight for the World Heavyweight Championship again. If only. All right, so AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle. Let's start there. Top of the card. This is obviously a big match as far as stories go. A lot of focus has been on AJ Styles for the last 6 weeks at least. So, Rob, let's talk about the build up to this match. Are you feeling this match?
I am. I mean, I think they could have done a better job building it up, giving it a better reason. You were asking who to root for, who fans should probably be rooting for going into this match. I would say you almost kind of have to favor AJ Styles. I mean, this is a guy who's been bullied by both factions. He's been given ultimatum. Nobody's really come and said, "Hey AJ, we need you." It's been, "Hey AJ, join us or we're going to beat the shit out of you." So he almost comes out looking like the good guy if it weren't for the fact that he attacked Kurt Angle with the hammer. So I guess it's pick whatever wrestler you like and root for him.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like AJ. The fans were basically told AJ is going to join Team TNA, and we should all cheer him. And how awesome would it be if he joined? And then it was announced he was going to join Aces Nate. So yeah, obviously you boo the guy. But now that he hasn't joined Aces Nate's, what reaction do you give him? Because he's not following. He's not a part of Team Hogan, and obviously they're pushing Team Hogan as the main babyface group in the company. But I can't like any of these guys. I can't like Kurt Angle. He still has that mean streak, and he's obviously, he's they're obviously pushing that he's angry and Hogan's angry and Sting's angry and AJ's angry, and no one is like coming off as in, hey, this is the good group.
Yeah.
It's just like everyone is just pissed off, and there's no that's the only level. There's no other levels to the story. It's just I don't know.
Everybody's pissed off.
So, but yeah, like the whole build up with AJ, AJ, team with us. This is your ultimatum. If you don't give us an answer, we're gonna be angry at you. That seemed kind of fail heavy for me. I hate the ultimatums, especially because it was just a repetitive ultimatum. You gave him the same ultimatum every single week. You never gave him the opportunity to respond. Of course, he was going to jump to another team, whether that's Aces Nate's or by himself. But yeah, I just don't see where they're going with this. Where the obvious ending is going. As long as Matt Morgan's not involved, as long as other guys that have been kind of pushed to the side are not involved, it doesn't seem like they're going to be making a third group, which is where this should be going, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, given the way things have taken, that's the logical conclusion. He forms a third group with maybe guys like Austin Aries and Matt Morgan, people who have either been forced into this battle and didn't want to be, or people who did join into the battle and were brushed aside or whatnot. Yeah, a third group would be the logical conclusion to what they're trying to do right now, but TNA has shown no hint that they're going to do that.
All right, so predictions. What are your predictions? AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle. Who wins?
I'm going to say they're probably going to give it to AJ Styles, if for nothing else than to keep whatever angle they've got going right now.
I'm right with you, and so is the FTW writers. If you check out ftwpodcast.com, there is a TNA Slammiversary 2013 predictions post. It has all of the predictions from our writers, so definitely check that out. But yeah, they say the same thing. AJ Styles is going to win, and that makes sense to me. You don't bring this back. You don't bring this guy in just to have him lose in this kind of capacity, but it's obvious that Aces Nates are going to get involved, right?
Probably, yeah.
Any chance Matt Morgan gets involved in this match?
If they're going to form a third group, this would be an ideal time for Matt Morgan to come in and maybe kind of bail AJ out and say, hey, you know what? I know exactly what you're going through because I've been shit on by Hogan and everybody too.
Yeah, and that's something that Ben in the live chat is also asking about. Is Matt Morgan going to get involved? And fantasy booking-wise, that would be the direction I would go next. Rob, you said it. If Matt Morgan and AJ Styles are going to partner up to make this third group, that would make this story a lot more interesting because I can't get behind Aces and Nates and I can't get behind Team TNA, but I can get behind a group like Matt Morgan and AJ Styles. So AJ Styles picks up the win here. All right, the next match is Taryn Terrell versus Gail Kim in a last knockout standing match. They're going to be doing this match instead of a Knockouts Championship match, at least as it stands right now. So, the predictions, as far as the writers go, they were kind of iffy on this. It was almost 50%. 5 of them said Taryn, 4 of them said Gail Kim. Rob, who do you got here?
I've got to go with Taryn Terrell. I mean, Gail Kim has really picked up her game. She's really gotten back to the competitor that she used to be. She's probably the top knockout going right now. But this is really Taryn Terrell's big debut as an actual wrestler. I think you got to give her the win.
Yeah, and this is... I completely agree with you. If we had to choose anyone to be Knockouts champion, I think Gail Kim would be that person. And I think a win here would definitely solidify that. It would definitely make a case that you have to put the title on her, or at least put her into the race, because as of right now she kind of isn't. She's demanding it basically in storylines and segments, and that's cool, but she really hasn't gone as far as actually competing in a match that would determine who would face Velvet Sky at the time. So, but Taryn Terrell, you're right. This is her first major match in TNA as a knockout. She's been strong. She's been built very strong going into this. I'm really excited about this match actually, and I'm also going to go with Taryn Terrell. I think if you give her the win, then now you have four legitimate contenders for the title. You've got Gail Kim, Taryn Terrell, Velvet Sky, and obviously Mickie James, who is now your TNA Knockouts champion. So I like that better than how they've been booking the Knockouts, which is very isolated. You've got basically two people and then some people on the outskirts. But if this is all going to mesh well into a title race, I would definitely give the win to Taryn Terrell.
Yeah, I mean, and a last knockout standing match could do really good in helping to rebuild the knockouts division. And let's not forget, Taryn Terrell did beat the shit out of Drew McIntyre in a hotel when he pissed her off. So it's not like she can't win this kind of match.
Definitely, and overall, I think it just tells a better. That's a better story to have Taryn pick up the win. But because it's a last knockout standing match, I have a hard time trying to visualize how that would actually take place. I mean, obviously Gail Kim is the much stronger of the two as far as wrestling goes. So there's gonna be some kind of shenanigans happening as far as I don't want to go as far as saying like outside interference, but I'm guessing, maybe we'll see the other two knockouts like a Velvet Sky getting involved or Mickie James, or there's going to be something else that happens to help Taryn Terrell get over Gail Kim. I can't see her doing it cleanly by herself for some reason.
or if ODB is still going to be used as kind of like the referee for the knockouts, we could see something like Gail Kim yell at ODB and ODB knocks Gail Kim the fuck out, and then just counts.
But if that happens, what you thought about that proposed ending? If that happens, would that cheapen this match for you?
It kind of would. I mean, you need a way. I mean, Taryn Terrell is definitely strong enough where she could win this match on her own. And for the win to be believable, she kind of has to. To me, the best way to do that would be Gail Kim tries to take a shortcut and gets caught and isn't allowed to use the shortcut somehow, and have the match progress from there. That's been the way that TNA has given a loss to Gail Kim and kept her strong, is that Gail Kim tries to cheat, gets caught, isn't allowed to cheat, and loses in a fair match. That's probably your best solution here.
Yeah, I think it definitely cheapens it for me, but knowing what could happen after this, with four people going for the Knockouts Championship, both have, all of them having, enough cred to compete for that title, I think for sure that's a good solution to lead to that point. As long as Taryn Terrell wins and it leads to that. Otherwise, if Taryn loses, then you'd have to extend Taryn versus Gail Kim for a few more weeks, and I don't know if I'm interested enough in that.
Yeah, I think that I think this feud is running out of gas, which means it's time for Taryn to finally pick up the win and put an end to things.
All right, next match: Jay Bradley versus Sam Shaw. There was a four-person tournament to determine who would be entered into the Bound for Glory series. One gut check contestant would be entered into the Bound for Glory series. I can't remember the first match. It was Jay Bradley versus someone. Can you remember who he faced?
God, no.
Yeah, I can't either because it didn't matter to me. Jay Bradley, I knew was going to win, and I wanted Jay Bradley to win, so he advanced. Then it was Sam Shaw versus Alex Silva. Alex Silva did not show up to Impact. behind the scenes, from what I read, it just seemed like he was late, stuck in traffic kind of thing, but they had to push forward with the segment anyways. So that's why it was booked the way they booked it last week with, Aces Nate's getting involved. But yeah, this is your match. Jay Bradley versus Sam Shaw. I think Sam Shaw would have won anyway, so no big loss there. But just looking at these two side by side, knowing what they can do in the ring, Jay Bradley has to win this match, right?
Yeah, I mean, I predicted at the start of the tournament that Jay Bradley would win. When I made that prediction, I said that, Jay Bradley kind of reminds me in a lot of ways of, a young Bradshaw. And every time I see him in the ring, he just kind of reinforces that. He's got he has an amazing instinct in the ring. He knows how to do what you need to do to get ahead as a wrestler. I think he's going to beat Sam Shaw.
Thank you, live chat. It was Christian York, Jay Bradley versus Christian York. How did we forget about Christian York, man? That guy was hyped so much, and like we've all lost interest. All right, so yeah, I'm totally with you as far as Jay Bradley goes. I mean, the guy just looks he's got it. He's got the look. He's got the attitude. Overall in the ring, he's very good. He works really well with the crowd. Yeah, overall, I think Jay Bradley is the guy you want in the tournament. Sam Shaw is
and
someone
he's from Chicago, which is a bonus.
Yeah, that's definitely a bonus. Sam Shaw is a guy who I think would do well in the X division, but I just can't see, or even in the tag team division. I believe he's a tag team right now with Alex Silva and OVW, so I would definitely like to see him there. But to throw him into Bound for Glory series, which is going to lead to a world title match, I just don't want to see Sam Shaw in there because we know he's not going to do well. It would be like another Robbie E, who is just there to get people, some wins.
Exactly.
So Jay Bradley with the win here. The FTW writers also said the same thing. I think only one person said Sam Shaw. But yeah, overall, I think that will make the Bound for Glory series a lot more interesting because you don't know who's going to win at this point. So
yeah, if Jay Bradley wins, it'll go a long way to convincing me that the gut check winner could potentially, if not win the Bound for Glory series, at least make a strong showing.
All right, up next, TV Championship match. We're finally going to get the TV Championship on the line, not on TV, but on pay-per-view, which is okay. I'm okay with that as long as it's being used. And let's be honest, Devon has not defended the title pretty much at all. You can count on your hand in the last 6 months, and that's pathetic. So overall, Devon as champion hasn't really done a whole lot with it, but he's going up against Joseph Park, and no one wants to back Joseph Park as champion. Are you in that same boat, Rob?
Sadly, I am. Joseph Park is not a credible character to me. He's one of those characters that it was kind of cool to see him the first couple of times, but he's really worn out. If it's for a title match, I would like to see Devon win.
But the only problem with that is if Devon wins, there's no active story to go along with the TV Championship. We're most likely going to get the same thing that we've been getting, which is basically it's just a thing that he wears in segments.
Yeah, that's true, but they need to come up with a stronger contender than Joseph frickin' Park.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily arguing with the idea that I don't want Joseph Park as champion, but if honestly in this scenario, if I have to choose between the two, I would rather Joseph Park be champion only because it's it's going to lead to something. Potentially, they are giving Joseph Park TV time. That's something that they really haven't done with Devon as far as in match competition. So you put the title on Joseph Park, and yes, that idea in itself is awful, but at the same time, the TV championship will be used for something. I mean, isn't that good? Isn't that good enough to do this?
Well, we're hoping that the TV title will be used for something. This has happened before. It's not just Devon that's taken the TV title and put it on a shelf somewhere and not defended it. Joseph Park winning doesn't guarantee that the TV title is going to be used a bit more. If that's TNA's plan, then yeah, by all means, put the belt on Joseph Park for like a week or two. And I cannot stress that enough. A week or two.
Yeah.
Because Joseph Park,
yeah.
Joseph Park as a character is not a credible champion.
No, they've it's got to be transitional.
Right.
But then again, if they gave him some kind of like EY run where it's just basically being used in segments, maybe he takes it back to OVW and kind of defends it at OVW, and put some of those guys on TV. I mean, that would be kind of interesting. So I think there are opportunities with Joseph Park as champion that wouldn't be totally bad because overall we did like EY as champion despite him not really defending it a whole lot.
This is true, and with especially with the OVW idea, you've convinced me. So yeah, I could see Joseph Park winning it.
Okay, I'm going with Joseph Park. The FTW writers also were going to go with Joseph Park, but they were all hesitant as well. Same conflicts that we're having with it. Yeah. So Chris from the TNA Facebook group that we're a part of, he threw out this scenario. So let's quickly just talk about it and see what you think. But he says, what if Parks comes out to face Devon at Slammiversary, and during the match he looks for a weapon underneath the ring, finds Abyss's mask, puts it on, and suddenly transforms into Abyss, thus ending the Joseph Parks character. Any thoughts on that, Rob?
On the surface, it sounds like it would be cool to see, but you have to take a look at it deeper, and this would end months and months and months of work that TNA has done to establish the fact that there are two different characters, Joseph
Right.
Park and Abyss, that they're actual brothers and everything. I don't think TNA is ready to throw away all of that work. They obviously have a plan for the Joseph Park character.
Yeah, and I can't see them ending it. At least not now. They have put so much work into it. So much TV time has been devoted for Joseph Park. So I think overall the ending it would appeal to the part of us that hates Joseph Park and is ready for Abyss to just take over now that Abyss is here. But at the same time, to do that would kind of contradict everything else that they've done. But how about the idea of them going with a similar scenario where Joseph Park goes underneath the ring to get something, gets dragged in, Abyss comes out and goes after Devon?
Now, see that's a bit more plausible because that's happened before. I mean, we've seen Joseph Park crawl under the ring and Abyss come out. That's a little bit more doable.
Yeah, and I'm definitely marking this match as an obvious area that they can bring Abyss into because Abyss isn't booked currently. So this is definitely a match that he could get involved in that would make sense. Another one would be the 6-man tag match. Let's move on to that. Samoa Joe versus Magnus. I'm sorry, Samoa Joe, Magnus, and Hardy versus Doc, Wes Briscoe, and Garrett Bischoff. This one the FTW writers were split on as far as who would win. I'm leaning towards Aces Nates. Despite this being like the super team as far as Samoa Joe, Magnus, the tag team that we all love, and Jeff Hardy, which is the guy that for whatever reason is like the John Cena of TNA and is like Superman basically over there. So I mean that's the super team. Doc, West Briscoe, and Bischoff definitely don't deserve any type of win going up against them, but I'm almost thinking they're going to. What about you?
I'm going to go with Samoa Joe, Magnus, and Hardy. From an experience standpoint, they're much more experienced than West and Bischoff. Team TNA is really struggling. To be fair, Aces and Eights is really struggling too, so you've got both units struggling. But I think at this point in time, Team TNA needs a win just a little bit more than Aces and Eights, and this tag team match is a perfect place to do it. So I'm going to go with Samoa Joe, Magnus, and Hardy.
Yeah, and I'm with you as far as everything you've said, but I mean the thing that we're leaving out is that they really haven't done anything productive with Doc. Since he was used to basically take out Sting months and months and months ago, he hasn't really done anything. Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff are in the same boat, and we talked about this on Tuesday. It's like you've got two guys in Bischoff and Wes Briscoe that the company really wouldn't give the time of day to, but then Aces and Eights really aren't doing it either. So this is their opportunity to shine, and if they don't shine here, what do you do with them?
You try to find another way for them. You try to find another way for them. Doc has had moments outside of just taking out Sting. He took out Magnus. He took out a couple of other wrestlers. I mean, granted, I understand that you're putting Briscoe and Bischoff in a little bit of a tight spot if you don't win. But at the same point in time, they can afford the loss a little bit more than I think Team TNA can at the moment because you've got both units struggling. But as I said, I think Team TNA needs to win just a little bit more, and this is a great place to do it. I have no answers for what to do with Wes Briscoe or Garrett Bischoff after this match, though.
Yeah, it's just that, as far as our major issues with Aces and Eights, it's just that overall, as individuals, they are weak, besides like a Bully Ray. Everyone has a weakness, and then together, they still come off really weak. And this is a perfect case. On paper, Doc, Wes Briscoe, and Bischoff have no chance at defeating a team like Joe, Magnus, and Jeff Hardy. But I think that's why they need to. They need to get a win here to make it seem like this story makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go against you. I'm gonna say Aces and Eights wins here. I think this was our first match so far that we have gone against one another. So
I believe so. Yes, every other pick so far we've agreed.
Okay, so we are about halfway through. Well, no, not even halfway through. We've got the Tag Team Championships coming up, as well as the X Division and the World Heavyweight Championship. But before we dive into those, let's talk about a probable match that was talked about in Impact this week, but it's not official and most likely won't be official anytime soon. If it's going to happen, it's going to be booked on the show, and it's going to happen on the show. So, and that is the Knockouts Championship match. Velvet Sky said she wanted her rematch, and her rematch, she wanted it at Slammiversary against Mickie James for the title. First of all, do you see this match happening?
Probably not. They've got a loaded card already, and the Hall of Fame induction and everything. They've got quite a few things to go through. I think it would be really hard to put them to try to fit the Knockouts Championship match, especially since they have a Knockouts match already.
Yeah, but you can have two knockout matches in one card. I mean, that's not totally against the rules.
No, it's not totally against the rules. It's just something that TNA and WWE don't do very often.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm with you there. And also, just for the story sense, I think I like where they're going with this. I like that Now Mickie James is going to kind of hold out and try to convince Brooke Hogan not to book that rematch until Velvet Sky is like 100% kind of thing. I think overall that adds a weird dynamic that we haven't seen in a match, or like in a feud in a while, especially in TNA. So I like that direction. And going into this match, if this match happened, knowing that Velvet Sky isn't hurt, and knowing that is hurt, and Mickie James will target that knee like she did on Impact, there's no way Velvet Sky wins, right? At least if it happens on Slammiversary.
Exactly. I mean, they've been. Um, I don't know if Velvet is actually injured or not, but assuming that she isn't actually injured, TNA and Velvet Sky are doing an awesome job of selling a knee injury. That's coming from a guy who's had a few knee injuries. Um, and if she goes into a match with a bad knee injury, knowing that Mickie James is just going to pick that knee apart, yeah, Mickie James wins hands down.
Yeah, and the writers at FTW are saying the same thing. They're all backing Mickie James. I'm going to have to back Mickie James if this match takes place. I don't see why you would drop the title on Impact just to drop the title back at Slammiversary. So if this match takes place, which is possible, don't look for a title change to happen. So there'll be something to drag this on for another couple of weeks. And which is weird for me to say because I was anti the idea of Taryn versus Gail Kim going for an extra few weeks. But I think in this case, they kind of have to drag this part of it, this side of it. So, all right. The other probable is basically, what are you going to do with Abyss? Abyss is not booked. He can play a part in AJ Styles and Kurt Angle. He could play a part in the 6-man tag match, the TV championship match, or even in the main event. But do you see him doing that? Basically interfering or taking part in someone else's match, or do you see him taking a part in his own match, like a last-minute booked filler match against Nux? I guess Nux is the only one left from Aces and Eights that hasn't been booked. Oh, or Ken Anderson.
Yeah, I would put him maybe a one-on-one match or something, or you could take it a step further and and say, okay, Nux, Mr. Anderson, and D'Lo Brown, gauntlet match, and send them out against the three of them. As a filler match, the gauntlet match doesn't really work. I think it would be more likely that they'd put him up against Nux. Because I think he's really the only big man that Aces and Eights has that isn't already in a fight.
Yeah. And I'm personally not thinking that they're going to book him in a match. They already have 8. If they bring in the Knockouts Championship, that's 9. But even 9 is a lot, especially for TNA, because what TNA doesn't do, generally speaking, is short matches. All of the matches last at least 5 to 10 minutes, especially on pay-per-view. So to have a filler match doesn't necessarily make sense for what TNA has been doing lately.
Exactly. It's not like WWE where you can see like a 3 to 5 minute match.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move on to the rest of the card. We've got 3 matches left. We'll start off with the Tag Team Championship match. Chavo and Hernandez defend against Austin Aries and Bobby Roode, Bad Influence, and James Storm and Gunner. This is an elimination match, so we can kind of talk about order. But overall, who do you think is going to win, Rob?
This is a tough call. I kind of like the way I'm kind of excited to see this. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with, I think it's going to be Aries and Roode that win.
All right, so you're going with Aries and Roode. I like that idea as well. overall, I mean, let me be completely honest. I am perfectly fine with the title being dropped to any of these guys. I could see any of these teams doing well as tag team champions. Bad Influence obviously is one of the major teams in TNA, so they've been the most consistent team as far as they've been a team for over a year consistently. So, but at the end of the day, I am going to pick someone that you're probably going to be surprised about, but that is Chavo and Hernandez. I'm gonna predict that they retain.
That's a good possibility too. They're one of the outside of Bad Influence, they're probably the most cohesive unit.
Yeah, I think putting the title on any of these teams will do well. Um, but to have James Storm and Gunner basically come in and take out the tag team champions, I think loses um, that loses energy in the tag team division. And that's something that TNA has right now is some good fluent energy in the tag team division. Have these two outsiders that aren't even a tag team come in. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Bad Influence, I think, would be great as tag team champions. So, and that's who the FTW writers were backing. You said Aries and Rude. Again, I think I like them as in the tag teams, but now that they have stopped their main motivation, which was to hold every single title in TNA. Now that they aren't fulfilling that, this just seems like just a plateau type area where they're just kind of cruising. They're not doing anything. This to me feels like a filler match for that team specifically. There's bigger and better things that they could be doing, but Chavo and Hernandez, a team that we all dislike, I think is an understatement. Overall, I think Chavo and Hernandez have been awful as far as getting over. But one thing that they've done well is win consistently. Uh, Chavo and Hernandez might not be the best on mic. They might not be the best in ring all the time, but overall, I'm actually okay with them as champions if they win at Slammiversary and continue to solidify their place in that history, in that title history. So I'm going to go with Chavo and Hernandez only because I want to see a credible team here, and none of these teams really come off as credible outside of like a Bad Influence. Obviously, they're credible, but Chavo and Hernandez they need to look strong here. Otherwise, what do you do with them? It's the same thing we have with other facets of TNA. If Chavo and Hernandez lose, they don't really have anything else to go to. They have to remain in the tag team division, and I would like a strong team going into the future.
Yeah, you make a good point. Good enough, in fact, that I'm going to change my vote and side with Chavo and Hernandez as well. Looking at the field, any of these guys would be good champions, but when you get right down to it, I think you're dead on. Either Chavo or Hernandez and Bad Influence are going to walk out with the belts.
Yeah, I like all of these teams, but overall, I don't think the tag team needs to go into a new direction, and that's what you would get with Aries and Rude and Bad Influence or Storm and Gunner. I think the direction they're going right now is good as long as they're getting the TV time that they have been. So, all right. Yeah, like I said, the FTW writers, they were all backing Bad Influence, at least a majority of them. So, but Rob and I are both saying Chavo and Hernandez, so that should be an interesting match. Possibly a match of the night, actually. There's a lot of good talent in that ring.
Yeah, there is.
So, all right, the X Division Championship match, another contender for the match of the night. Obviously, we've got Kenny King defending against Chris Sabin and Suicide. Ultimate X match. This will probably go early in the card. Either it might open up the pay-per-view or it might open up the second hour. But overall, this is going to be an awesome match considering who's in it. So Uh, Kenny King. FTW writers are backing Kenny King. He's had the most consistent story over the last 4 to 5 months, especially after he took the title off of RVD. I really like what they're doing with him. Chris Sabin obviously is a major contender here. He's returning. He's the fan favorite, I would imagine. And overall, you've got to guess he's going to be hurt soon. So if you're going to put a title on him, you might as well do it now. But outside of all of these guys, Suicide, no way he's going to win, right?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, I've not seen anyone predict Suicide wins. Just filler, and I guess I'm okay with it, with a filler guy being Suicide rather than having Sanjay Dutt or Petey Williams come in just to lose with no like real point in the match other than putting the other two guys over. But I think that's what Suicide's going to do here, and as long as he's anonymous, I think that's okay. But yeah, Kenny King. Right now, he's the favorite going into this match. That's what the FTW writers are saying. What do you say, Rob? Who are you backing in this match?
I'm going to say Sabin. This is a perfect opportunity to put the belt on Sabin to complete his comeback story. Kenny King's held the title for a while. It would be a good spot to have him lose it and maybe develop the storyline with him a bit further. And there is the chance that there is the thing, you really aren't sure if you're going to have Sabin, how long you're going to have Sabin or whatnot, so might as well get what you can out of him and give him the belt now.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that that feeling that Sabin kind of makes sense here, but I don't think he has made enough of an impact since his return to really get the backing that he deserves. He's not getting the massive cheers that you would expect a guy from Motor City Machine Guns to get. Yes, they had that great video package basically building up his return, and his matches since he's returned have been pretty good, especially this last Impact. I thought he looked awesome, but overall, I don't think it's enough to give him the title. I think Kenny King is still a strong champion. He's defended the title pretty much every other week, I think it seems. So I'm going to say keep the title on Kenny King at Slammiversary, but Sabin will have the title within the next couple of weeks. So I am going against you, Rob.
Okay.
By the way, no, I'm not going to say that. Sabin needs to prove he can stay injury-free a long period of time before TNA can put the title on him. That's what's coming from the live chat, and I think that's definitely the case here. It's just that it's so difficult to get behind a guy and put a lot of weight on him, knowing that he may or may not be here in 2-3 months. And if they put Jeff Hardy through the story that they put him through on his return and made him go up the ladder basically to get back to the championship, you have to assume that they're gonna that they're not just gonna hand the title to Chris Sabin.
First and foremost, Sabin never showed up to a match so stoned he didn't know where the fuck he was.
But
secondly, hang on. Secondly, they didn't make Hardy go up the ladder. They said that Hardy was going to start off at the bottom, and we saw a few segments of him walking around to various wrestlers backstage and apologizing, trying to get a second chance. And he had a couple matches on the bottom, like one match in the middle, and then bam, he's right back into the main event.
But we're still talking, a few months before Jeff Hardy was thrust back into that main event picture, and that's all I'm saying. I'm not comparing the two. I'm not saying they're anything alike. I'm just saying that Jeff Hardy, who the company has definite high hopes for, or at least high praise for, that will put him in the main event no matter what. For them to put Jeff Hardy through that embarrassing storyline that he had to go through, I can't just see them, not doing something similar with Chris Sabin as far as the waiting to hand the title to him.
I could understand that a little bit, but part of it too is Saban never embarrassed TNA.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
I understand the waiting game a little bit because you want to see if Saban's really recovered, but it's really apples and oranges comparing Hardy and Saban.
agreed. And yeah, that's fine. So all right, so I'm going to go with Kenny King. So are the FTW writers. You're going to go with Chris Sabin. So okay, cool. Now it's time for the World Heavyweight Championship match, the main event. Bully Ray defends against Sting, and if Sting loses, he will never be able to fight for the World Heavyweight Championship again.
Until the next time he fights for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah. Okay. Any chance that stipulation means anything?
The only thing I can see this stipulation being is being another step in the fact that Sting's career is evolving to the point where he's going to be a strictly part-time wrestler whose main job is to help put younger guys over. And that is what I think Sting is best utilized for right now. He's had his world championships. He's a legend. He's a Hall of Famer in TNA. If he had ever worked in the WWE, he'd be a Hall of Famer there too. He doesn't really need the world title anymore. I think right now it's just he's getting closer to retirement. He's going to move to being a part-time wrestler and put guys over.
You mean more of a part-time wrestler than he already is?
No, I mean basically kind of sticking where he is right now.
Yeah,
but kind of making that transition official, basically.
Sure, and I think overall, if that's the direction they're going to go, as far as giving him a storyline reason why he can't be the top guy anymore, I think overall that would be cool. Fantasy booking wise, I'm pretty sure that we all want Sting to lose here, right?
Yeah, Bully Ray needs to win this match.
Yeah, and live chat saying the same thing. FTW Riders said the same thing. They're pretty much all backing Bully Ray. I can't see any reason not to give it to Bully Ray because, fantasy booking or not, we're tired of seeing Sting in that main event slot. This is the second Slammiversary in a row that Sting has competed for the World Heavyweight Championship. But just like last year when he lost to Bobby Roode, I see the same thing happening here and him losing to Bully Ray. So, yeah. But, Bully Ray needs to win. Aces and Eights needs to continue to look strong. And for Team TNA to be led by a guy like Sting and have the title on him, I think would be way, way counterproductive. I know that there are fans out there, there are TNA fans out there that are watching because of guys like Sting and Hogan and Kurt Angle, other veterans like that, but there's a lot of young talent that, I would rather see in that position. I would even, even AJ Styles, I think, would have been a better candidate here. There's no reason why Matt Morgan shouldn't be in this spot this weekend.
Definitely.
So, all right. So that is basically the pay-per-view. That's the card. Also on this weekend is the announcement of who is going to be inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame. Last year it was Sting. This year, obviously, we don't know. They're going to make that announcement at Slammiversary, and then the official induction will happen at Bound for Glory. Overall, same names that were on the list last year when we were talking about it are still on the list this year. So you've got Ken Shamrock, who's the first TNA champion. You've also got Ron Killings, who's most likely not going to be a candidate as long as he's with WWE. But you also have guys like Kurt Angle, who was a big vote getter with the FTW Writers. Same thing with Jeff Jarrett, who has my backing. I think that totally makes sense to have him involved. But then there's also, Randy Savage, just to beat WWE to the punch. So Rob, your thoughts on these names and any other names that you think might be eligible for this?
I'd like to see Randy Savage, both despite WWE and because the man deserves it, but you've got to work out stuff with the um, you have to work things out with the Savage family,
Yeah.
and see if you can get stuff working there.
But
Um,
but he doesn't make sense though. I mean, yes, Randy Savage deserves to be in a Hall of Fame, but to put him in the TNA Hall of Fame would be, you know,
the
paper. It just wouldn't make it just
the yeah. I mean, you really can't do it without saying, well, if you competed for like WCW or something, then you can go into our Hall of Fame. But then you're taking a direct shot at the WWE, who owns WCW.
sure.
Um,
But
so
that's not what the TNA Hall of Fame is. The TNA Hall of Fame is, not what they've contributed to wrestling. It's what
right
they've contributed to TNA.
to
And
TNA,
Savage was only there for 2-3 weeks. I think he was involved in one match.
right? So it's really as great a wrestler as he was, he really didn't do much for TNA itself. As much as I cannot stand the guy personally, I think Jeff Jarrett makes the legitimate choice since he
Yeah.
founded the company.
Well, that and he's been off TV for 2 years now. So, a few months ago, I was saying that Jeff Jarrett should help the fight against Aces and Eights, and that would basically solidify his shot at being in the Hall of Fame. As far as being in the fans' side, in the back of their mind that Jeff Jarrett is a good guy and deserves all this praise, because realistically he's been a bad guy for so long, up until he left. So, but overall, Jeff Jarrett I think makes the most sense. But so does a Kurt Angle.
Yeah, Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle's another one. I mean, he's made it clear that in about a year or two he plans to retire,
Yep.
which would make him a perfect candidate to put into the Hall of Fame now. Um, I mean, Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle. I said, I would bet money that it's going to be one of those two guys that goes in.
Yeah, I think Kurt Angle definitely makes sense, especially because since he's came out saying that he's going to retire in the next couple of years, there is a lot of talk, especially from his side, saying that a WWE return is most likely going to happen. So if that's the case, they should do this now while they have the opportunity to have him do his acceptance speech and show him on TV and really sell those DVDs and everything. And to wait any longer on Kurt Angle might make it a bit more complicated. So,
Definitely.
but yeah, I like Jeff Jarrett. I like Kurt Angle. Both of those are my two top contenders. So, all right, let's just wrap up as far as Slammiversary goes. Did you feel that that this card was built up properly?
Like most pay-per-views, some of the matches had some really good build-up. Other matches are just kind of thrown together at the last minute. You've got matches like Taryn Terrell and Gail Kim, really good build-up for those matches. Sting and Bully Ray, not as much build-up as I would have liked. Um, the tag team title match has some good build-up. Again, you could have done a bit better. It's kind of hit or miss, really, when you look at the card as a whole.
Yeah, and we talked about this on Tuesday as well, and we'll talk about it again. On the next episode of FTW, and basically all these matches I like a lot on paper. I think everything has been built up well. The only questionable one is the Devon versus Joseph Park thing. Yeah, sure, the 6-man was kind of last minute. Samoa Joe, Magnus Hardy versus Doc, Wes and Bischoff. That wasn't built up well, but I think that's going to be a good enough match that it doesn't matter. Yes, it's a random, but it's It's a random match that will mean something to a basic storyline, and overall it'll be a good match. It's not like the random filler match like Cody Rhodes versus The Miz on the YouTube pre-show that doesn't mean anything and won't be good and will overall, not lead up to anything. This will lead up to something that will continue the overall story, and I think that's what sets a random match like this apart from stuff that WWE does.
Yeah, definitely.
So I just wanted to clarify that because as I was saying it, I remember the criticism that we got for saying, how we don't like the random match of Miz versus Cody on the pre-show, because if it was TNA, we would like it because it's good wrestling. But there's more to it. Yes, it's random as in its last minute, but it's still a part of the same basic story that they've been telling. The only difference here is Hardy. Hardy is coming back. Slammiversary doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because we haven't seen him on TV. I think it would have made a much bigger impact if he appeared 2 weeks ago, and this was booked 2 weeks ago or something. So, but yeah, definitely this TV championship match, I think we're all kind of iffy on, just because I think Joseph Park makes the most sense to be champion, but he's not a credible champion. They need to do something with the title, but we don't like this specifically. So. But yeah, that's the pay-per-view. Obviously, we're going to be watching it. You can find out some more coverage of Slammiversary here on TWR Network tonight at 7 p.m. Wrestling Randomness is going to be previewing as well. They're going to be talking about the week that was in both WWE and TNA also. But definitely some big conversations about Slammiversary, their thoughts going into it, and then on Sunday. There's going to be a live chat going. You can reach that at twrnetwork.com. Just go to the live chat, or you can also get that chat room here on ftwlive.com. We're going to have that running as well. But yeah, it's going to be going on before the show, before the pay-per-view starts, during the pay-per-view, and afterwards. So if you're looking for people to talk to during Slammiversary, you can get in that live chat. We're also going to be live tweeting. There'll be probably a live discussion in the Facebook group as well. So lots of opportunities for you guys to talk to us during Slammiversary. So other than that, we don't have any really Ask FTW questions we're going to bring over. We talked about doing that on Tuesday, but I think we can hold off the majority of these until Tuesday, this upcoming show. So. Anything else before we close up, Rob?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right, cool. That's the show. You can go check out ftwpodcast.com for more information about us and how to get involved in the future. Also, check out the site. We've got new blogs every single day. Rob, there's a new one out that you should check out. It's called Why WWE Should Bring Back Batista. Huh? We had a guest writer submit that, so definitely check that out. But some cool stuff as far as how to fix John Cena. I know that conversation will never end, but this is, I believe it was Corey or Kyle. I can't think of who it was now, but great insight about what to do with John Cena. Also, Slammiversary predictions. We referenced it all night. The FTW writers got together to put out their predictions, so check out ftwpodcast.com for that and more. Like I said, new blog every day. And again, we are you can listen to us every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. here on twrnetwork.com, 8 p.m. Eastern, -5 Greenwich Mean Time. And stay tuned. Coming up a little bit later on tonight, Wrestling Randomness, 7 p.m. And yeah, definitely check that out. So anyways, see you guys next Tuesday. Actually, see you on Slammiversary. Be a fun pay-per-view to talk to you guys during. See you, Rob.
Yep.